All right. Hi, everybody. For those of you who weren't with us last time, my name is Jackie. Jenna is the person who sends you all the emails. There's been a group of us that have been helping everybody out to kind of organize this. So thanks everybody for attending. I'm going to try to keep this meeting a little bit more succinct than last time so I can answer anybody's questions. I have been getting a lot of individual emails, which I think it's great. I do want to let everyone know that I do have a full-time job. So I'm trying to help everyone individually as much as possible. That's why we're recording this, so that hopefully I can answer everybody's legal questions about leases and all those kinds of things. So instead of kind of opening the floor this time to complaints, because I think we all have the same complaints about the building, what I'd like to do is just kind of dive right in. And then at the end, if there's anybody that has questions or wants to, say a specific complaint or something like that, feel free. But I want to just dive right in with the agenda for the night. So the first thing is, what was the response from the last meeting? So we sent an email to upper management. We CC'd everybody. I got 2 responses. I got one from Christina and the regional team. I guess she basically said she's speaking on behalf of Greystar. This is the person they've appointed. Well, we all know that Christina is sort of pointless, but that's the point person. And then I got a second response, a legal letter from their attorney for the building. So the first response from Christina from the building was essentially a go F yourselves. It was we are giving you what we think is an appropriate response to your complaints, which is the valet stand that they've put in B, which sometimes has a person, sometimes doesn't have a person, and that they feel, and adding security cameras. I don't know if anybody else has cameras, but they've added one to my hallway here on the 4th floor. So that is the response with all of our complaints. That's what they've given us. The second letter was from their legal team, and I'm shocked, but not shocked, but they admitted in writing to taking down all of our tenant reviews on Google. That obviously opens a door for a lot of constitutional claims and First Amendment violations of freedom of speech. You're not allowed to do that. I'm shocked that they put it in writing, but they essentially said, we feel that we, as an out-of-state actor, have the law gives us the ability to take down reviews which we deem to be unfair or misleading. I'm not sure how they fall into that category, but should anyone want to file their own lawsuit for constitutional claims, you certainly have a claim against them. So though the responses from management were poor, they were, this is all that it's going to be. So that leads me to what my response to people reaching out to me has been, which is, I think the best course of action is either individually, you have to withhold rent or amenity fees or be prepared to move out. So the first one is the withholding of amenity fees and or rent. So I want to caution everyone that there will be pushback from management. There already has been, and I've been trying to help people individually as much as possible navigate and put together emails for them and help them as much as I can. But I obviously can't help. I think we have 75 people on the email chain now. I have individually just don't have the time to help 75 people. So I'm hoping to give you guys the tools to be able to navigate this. So the first thing is the withholding of the amenity fee / administrative fee, however you want to say, the $85. The pushback from them is going to be, okay, well, then you don't use our amenities. So on the one hand, if you don't use the gym, which is really the only amenity, I wouldn't pay the $85 because you have nothing to lose at that point. If they tell you they're going to lock you out or withhold anything, that's completely illegal. And you should pray that they lock you out of your apartment, because if they do that, you can win a large sum of money very easily in court. So they're not going to lock you out of your apartment for an $85 administrative fee. So if you want to withhold that, by all means, withhold that and send an email that says, I am not paying the administrative fee / amenity fee, since the amenities here are not being run properly. People from outside the building are using them. They're not being maintained. I don't have access to all the amenities that were promised, therefore I'm not paying it. Personally, I don't plan on paying rent ever again here once my credit runs out, but that is me. I'm prepared to fight that battle. So if you want to withhold your amenity fee, that's the easiest thing to do. Now, withholding rent is much more tricky. If you want to withhold rent, you can't just withhold rent and spend it on shoes. You must open a bank account, whether it's Chase or whoever you bank with. Open a separate account, savings account, checking account, doesn't matter. And put a label on it that says rent escrow account. That is what it must be. So instead of paying rent to the building, you put that money in your rent escrow account, because should you ever go to court, you have to show the court, I did have the money to pay, but I chose not to because of X, Y, and Z. They didn't remedy the things that I needed. So if you're having an unlivable or uninhabitable situation in your apartment, uninhabitable things are your water doesn't work, your heat doesn't work, your faucets keep falling apart, or washer dryer, not uninhabitable. Things like water, heat. If you're asthmatic and weed smoke is coming in your apartment, those are uninhabitable situations for which you can withhold rent, and you could win that pretty easily. If you have a very specific question about that at the end, I'm happy to take the questions, but those are uninhabitable things that you can withhold rent for. It is going to be difficult to withhold rent for not having security and not having, access to gym or whatever it may be. So you can withhold rent, but you'd have to be prepared in 6 months or 8 months to fight that in court. I cannot fight individually for each person. We do have a remedy of suing them as a tenants board, which I'm more than happy to do. It's just another day for me. So we can sue them in a contract action as a tenants association for breaking the contract. There are bigger things at play. Some larger firms have gotten wind of what's going on here, and they may step in on our behalf, which would be fantastic. So that is something that's in the works, possibly a large law firm coming in and taking on essentially all of our case and getting us everything we want. So that is in the works for us. But the immediate fix is you can withhold the amenity fee. That's the easiest situation. Does $85 to anybody in this group probably make a difference? No. But if you're like me and you like causing a little bit of trouble to them, or like having, Lisa grow a few more gray hairs, that is a good way to do it. On the rent withholding side, if your apartment is falling apart, I know some people have had issues with their heat and hot water and things like that. That is definitely a rent withholding situation. If your washer dryer like mine never works, not a rent withholding situation. Again, if you have specific questions, we can answer those at the end. So those are the first 2 points. The biggest point is number 3. I think the easiest thing for everyone to do, and I know it sucks, is cut your lease. Get the heck out of Dodge, because this place is not changing anytime soon. If there are remedies, they're not going to be overnight, clearly. So if everybody looks in their lease when they're done, there's a few different leases because they've evolved from the people I've spoken to over the past couple of weeks. Everyone has a slightly different page in their lease. So if you look at your leases, there's 20 different what's called addendums on there. They're basically riders, they're additions to your lease. There's 2 things you have to look for. There's something called a rent concession addendum, same thing. Rent concession addendum, and a second one called buyout addendum. If you moved in like an original tenant in 2019, 2020, whenever this building was just built, you may not have a rent concession addendum. It doesn't seem like you would have that, because I think what happened is people started moving out and they started evolving the lease over time. So if you are one of the original tenants here, you may not have a rent concession addendum. So it's the easiest for you guys to get out of your lease. All you have to do is look at your rental buyout addendum. And this is for everyone across the board. Pretty much everyone is going to have a rental buyout addendum. And if I had to bet, everybody says the same thing. They will buy you out of your lease, so to speak, meaning you can cut your lease short at any time if you give them 2 months notice, meaning 60 days notice, and your penalty for leaving is 2 months rent. So let's just say your rent is $3,000. You write them an email and you say, I'm leaving in 60 days and I'll be paying, and the penalty is $6,000. However, there's a caveat to that. And the caveat is, in New Jersey, you are only legally required to give 30 days notice. It's the same for them. It works both ways. 30 days notice is sufficient, okay? So if you decide to fuck this, I'm moving out, I'm sorry, excuse my language. You decide I want to move out in 2 weeks, all that you're required by law to give them is 30 days, okay? Make sure you give any notice in writing because these people are sneaky and they will try to screw you. So 30 days notice is all that's required. And in your email, you can say, I have spoken to an attorney. I am well aware that only 30 days is required by law in New Jersey. That's the first thing. The second thing is the buyout, so to speak, or the 2-month penalty. So the way I've worked it with some tenants so far is I've kind of given them offer them this deal situation. So I don't know if everyone's aware, a lot of tenants were moving out without paying anything. They took the 6 months free and they left them high and dry. This building's never going to recoup any money from them, ever. So the deal I've been telling people to give them is, I will give you your 60 days. If you can stay here for 60 days. If it's I have to move out, give them the 30 and get out. But if you can stay for 60 days, offer them, I will give you guys 60 days notice. That's 30 more than is required by law. However, I'm going to stay for the 60 days. So essentially, I'm going to pay you one of those months in my buyout fee by staying here. And then I agree to pay you an additional 1 month penalty. So that's the workaround to not having to pay 2 months penalty. I'll give you 60 days notice. I'm staying here for the full 60 days and I'm going to pay you a 30-day penalty, which is your 1 month base rent. You don't have to pay additional parking because you're not parking here. Parking is an optional thing. So I'm paying you an extra base rent for 30 days. 99.9% of the time, the office is going to take that deal because it's guaranteed rent money for 1 month in their pocket, and they have 2 months to then rent your apartment out. I want everyone to know they are going to try to scare you with ridiculous things. The new point person or the new bully down there, her name is Jess. She's Lisa's right-hand man. Some things that have come out of her mouth that are absolutely ridiculous and completely untrue are, number one, we're going to send you to collections. Hamilton Cove is not a collection agency, nor are they a creditor. They cannot send you to collection for paying rent. Their only remedy is to sue you in a court of law. Residential evictions right now are about 8 to 12 months behind. So you have no danger of going to court anytime soon. But for the average person, you don't want to move out and have that hanging over your head, which is why you want to offer them this in writing and have it squared away in writing before you move out. If you are prepared in 6 months or 8 months or 12 months to fight with them in court, by all means do it. I personally am, because it doesn't matter for me. So if you're prepared to do that, I would tell you to heck with them, withhold your rent, put in an escrow account, move out, see if they ever even hit you in court, which they may not. That's just a chance you got to be willing to take. But the safe way is to do what I said. Stay for the 60 days, give them the deal, say, I'll stay for 60, I'm going to pay you an extra 30 to move out, pay them a 1 month penalty to move out. Or worst case scenario, if you don't want to do any of that, you can sublet your apartment. There is a clause in our lease that says you can sublet your apartment. You just need approval. So you go to them and you say, hey, look, I'm either moving out and not paying you any rent, or you give me approval to sublet my apartment. That would probably be only if you knew someone was going to sublet it for you and pay your rent, but that's an option too. So back to the lease. That is if you have no rental concessions or anything like that. People who moved in around the time I moved in November of 2020, we do have a page that says rental concession addendum. However, the whole page is blank. We still are good with that. We're still covered. We don't have to fight with them. Our only penalty is that 2 month move out if we chose to move out early, but still giving them that same deal. Now, it seems that if you moved in 2021, you have the rental concession addendum page, but yours has a little bit of a fill-in that says there's a box, there's two columns. On the left side, there's a box that's checked that says rental concession addendum. You agree to take 22,000, 25,000, whatever that rental concession for your lease was, and you have to stay for the whole lease. If you continue reading at the top of the second column on the page, it says the penalty for breaking your lease before the end of the 6-month free, before the 26 months, is you have to pay us back. And it says as follows. And there's two lines there. One says concessions and the other one says, I don't know, might say concessions and other. But it says check all that apply. So the way it's reading the contract is if you break this lease before 26 months, you owe us, let's just say 20,000 is your rental concession. You owe us $20,000. However, it seems that the leasing office, Steve and Kim, were lazy. They didn't check either box. So if you went to court, it would be up to a judge to say, did they mean to check a box and just didn't? Or did they offer that as, no, you can move out without a problem. Your only penalty is going to be that 2 months penalty to entice you to rent here. So we've already run into that problem with a tenant. His response from management was, you owe us $32,000, blah, 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 blah. If you don't do that, we crafted an email back and said, well, are you telling me that you retroactively are checking the box or that you just forgot? Which one of those two things is it? Because that way they either have to tell you, whoops, we screwed up and we meant to check a box and we didn't. And we're telling you we want to check it, or we screwed up and didn't check anything because we don't know what we were going to do. That is your way out. So if they tell you, you owe us $30,000, okay, where does it say that? Because it says in the lease, I owe you this back, and neither box is checked. And if I had to bet, nobody's lease has a box checked, because I've seen about 10 of them now and none of them are checked because, like I said, I believe the leasing team was very lazy in just getting these out the door. So
Jackie, I went ahead and I put an example in the chat. So if anyone wants to see it, you can see it screenshotted.
Let me see. It's in the chat. Do you just want to share your screen, Jenna, if you can?
Sure, I can. I mean, I can.
Oh, I see image. I see where you have it.
Oh, I can't because I'm on my work computer, but I did put the image there so you can see it. And I believe there's a question as well, if you want to.
Okay. So that is your ticket out. They're gonna, obviously we've already done this like 2 or 3 times with people. So eventually they're gonna start catching it. However, they really can't do anything about it. They have, what's good for one is good for all. They have to let you out at this point. So if those are the 3 main things I wanted to tell everybody tonight, so that if you're going to stick it out here, things aren't going to change anytime soon. We're in talks to trying to get a big law firm to come in and help all of us. You can withhold the administrative fee rather easily because it's $85. If you want to withhold your rent, you're going to be in for a fight. Be prepared for that fight. I'm happy to help you if I can. I can only give you some advice. I can't fight the fight for you, but the easiest way out is to break the lease. So if there's questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Lisa, do you want to go ahead?
Okay, I want to meet you're 100% correct. I went down there because I had an issue because when I signed the lease, I went to law school, so I'm also an attorney. And my silly behind, I'm a criminal law attorney though. My silly behind did not read the lease. I was so excited to get out of my $7,000 a month rent in New York, long story short. And I didn't realize that I paid on the 7th and they charged me like a 10% late fee. So I was angry about it, went downstairs, spoke to whomever the manager lady was. And she said, well, there's nothing I can do. We're not waiving the late fee, et cetera, et cetera. I said, well, I'm over this place anyway, because garage is always open. There's always weirdos in the garage, et cetera, et cetera. She said, well, if you choose to, I said, well, I'm out of here. I want to leave. She said, well, you're going to have to give $30,000 because I think the rent is $4,300 here. And you're right. Once again, I just reviewed it. The box is not checked. So if the box is not checked, I'm not going to say I'm 100% sure, but a judge would be like, well, can you really go after them for that? I don't think so. I'm personally prepared to hold rent from them because it sucks. Everything here sucks. The gym sucks. Everything is horrible. And I think we deserve to get more for what we're paying for. So I'm ready to fight with them. They can't lock you out. They could attempt to, but if they do, you could own the damn building if you fight hard. So that's my say so. So I'm definitely going to hold rent. They sent me an email today because I didn't pay them this month and say they're sending me to court on February the 10th. I said, let's do it. That was my response.
Good luck getting a court date on February 10th. I have a trial that's been waiting since 2019 that just got a trial date for February 22nd that's getting adjourned again. So good luck.
That's what it is in Jersey court. I said, well, let's rock on. Let's play ball. I don't care. Because I have a list of stuff that shouldn't happen. Security is never there. People come in all the time. Random people walking up and down the floor. I'm on the 8th floor. They're smoking weed. There's all kind of weird things that are happening. So I think we have a fight. I mean, that's it.
Yeah. And Lisa, let me know if you agree. I think even if a judge were to say, you know, the building didn't mean to not check that box, I think for a lay person, any tenant that's not you or I or Jenna or a lawyer could say, hey, I signed this lease because it reads that I can leave at any time for any life event with a 2-month penalty. If you're telling me that I was bound to pay them $20,000 or $30,000, I would have never signed the lease. I don't see a judge enforcing that against a lay person. I really don't.
They won't. I highly doubt it. And it's COVID. We're still in COVID.
Yeah.
And you can't force people to give what they don't have. Even if we do, you have to fight the fight. And I think it'll be years. They'll prefer for you to leave. I think at this point, if all of 75 of us say we're leaving, they'd be happy and say goodbye versus then all of us going to court because we could sit here for years for free.
Yep.
I don't think they want that.
No.
So I think we're set. We have a case and we just got to play it by ear. I may give them half the money. I may give them half the rent, what I think it's worth. I don't know. I'll make that decision. But I know her scaring me, telling me she's sending me to court. They'll have, okay, you could have me served, but that doesn't mean it's going to go anywhere.
Right, right.
Good luck to them. But also to support the riot because I think they're messed up.
Yeah.
And Steven and all the leasing guys, they were definitely rushing to get us in here. People that obviously got the concessions and they didn't do their job. And I'm mad I didn't read it because if I read it correctly, I would have never signed for 10% late fee. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's all.
Good to know you're here, Lisa.
Thanks for having me.
Natalia, do you want to go?
Yes. One thing I found on my lease is another mistake they made. I don't know if someone can take advantage of it. If someone is trying to stay here and is trying to negotiate because everyone's getting slapped with a 20 or more rent increase, if they want to renew their lease, my lease explains about supposedly why they can increase the rent, whatever they want. But on the specifics, it says that it's the building and it gives Estuary's 3 Towers addresses and not Hamilton Cove's address. So basically I can tell them, you're telling me you can increase it, but it says other property.
So I do want to address that. So I don't know if that would work, but I'll tell you what will work when it comes to the rental increases. So in Weehawken, the rent increase is 4%. The building is going to say, and this is where they're going to try to scare you and say, we made a deal as Harts Mountain with Weehawken that our buildings are exempt from the rental increases in Weehawken. So Weehawken says the most you can raise someone's rent on a yearly basis is 4%. That's based on the income of the town. Richer towns have a higher cap, poorer towns have a lower cap. Weehawken is 4%. So take your rent, times it by 4%. That's the most they can raise you. So there's two things you can do. Number one, you tell them to go scratch. You are not paying more than 4% increase because that is the city municipal code. You can go online, type in Weehawken municipal code, look for rent increases. It's in black and white. They cannot say Hart's Mountain is exempt. What you write back is you say, you know that that's illegal and unenforceable. A building cannot make a deal with the town that they are allowed to handcuff their tenants to whatever rent increase they want. They're not, it's not allowed. So now that's your first pushback. Your second pushback is if you want to stay here because maybe you can't find another apartment, whatever reason, you want to stay here, your lease comes up, you tell them, I'm not paying you increased rent, and you just keep paying your same rent. You then become a month-to-month tenant abiding by the same rules as the last lease. At some point, they may move to evict you, but it's going to be a long time. Just keep paying your same rent, okay? It honors the last lease as long as you do that. The easier way is to fight with them and tell them you're not raising me more than 4%. And if you try to, I'm going to just keep paying the same rent, and then you're going to have to try to evict me, which is going to take you 12 to 18 months. That's how you do that. Any other questions?
No. Yeah, so far so good.
Sorry, you got muted, Jackie.
Oh, I just said between Lisa, Jenna, and I hope we answered everyone's questions about what you can do, what you should do, what you want to do. So, you know, I don't foresee, unless something insane happens, I don't foresee the need for another meeting. I mean, it's always good for us to maybe have like a spring check-in, whoever's left here before the summer gets crazy. You know, myself, I'm just riding out my lease until I can find a place that I want to buy. So whatever day that happens, that's a damn peacing out. You know, I'm not giving them any notice. They can come get me. But again, that's a personal choice. So if anybody has a more specific question, or if they go to try to get out of their lease or withhold or whatever, and they give them a hard time, feel free to email me. I will try to promise I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. But again, I am a full-time lawyer, so I will try to help everybody get out of their lease or navigate it as best as they can if they don't understand what it says on their lease. Someone says, on my lease, there are several pages that says resident signed here and it's not signed. No, that doesn't really make a difference, the signed or not signed, because as long as the master copy of the lease is signed, I mean, if you have individual addendum pages that are not signed, again, a judge could say it applies or it doesn't apply. For fighting with the office, it's good ammo. So if you have addendums that are not signed, you can say, I never agreed to this because I didn't sign this page. I believe that they auto-generated all of their signatures. Like, I think if you look at the lease they sent you back, that they kind of stamped in, like it just auto-populated their signatures on every page. So that's everything about the lease. Someone says, what happened in the gym? Yes, I do know what happened. I spoke to Lucas for 2 hours. Long story short is what we wanted worked a little bit, but it backfired on them. So, you know, in our letter to them, we pushed and said, one of the big things is security. People are in and out of the gym that don't live here. Bad news for them is they're racist. The somewhat new guy, Ian, I think his name is, in management, he started walking around the gym one day, didn't talk to anybody, went straight up to Lucas, who is an African-American. I say Lucas is in his 30s, who lives here. Lucas has been here for like longer than me, so at least 1.5 years, if not 2 years. And they called the cops on him while he was lifting in the gym because they thought he didn't live here. And he had them on video basically saying, like, how dare you call the cops on me in my own home? Because what? Because I'm the black guy in the gym. So they're in a hell of a lot of trouble for that. I think Lucas has his own legal thing going with them. But that is why the cops were here. It was a big, big problem. And Lucas is a influencer and has like 1.5 million TikTok followers, so it blew up. So if you see like crazy reviews on Google and Yelp, that's from like the TikTok sphere or whatever you want to call it, blowing up their reviews. But I mean, it worked because the reviews are pretty low now. So
Regarding the PSEG, usually when there's storms, they will just guesstimate whatever your meter was. This happened when I moved in February last year. So if you have a crazy high bill, you need to call PSEG and tell them that you want your meter manually read, and then they will alter your bill accordingly. Because when I moved in, well, in January last year, they just guessed my bill and I had to pay like over $600. So for everyone who's complaining about your bill, just call PSEG and make sure that they go read your meter.
correct. Yep. Any other questions? Yeah, so I hope this was helpful for everyone. Like I said, if there's any more specific or private questions you have, feel free to email Jenna or I. But I hope everyone kind of makes their own decision about what they want to do. Like Lisa said, you know, they will take you moving out and giving them 30 days notice or 60 days notice and a free 30 days in rent, rather than you just staying here not paying rent, because they have no remedy right now to getting you out. They have no remedy to getting anybody out. They cannot lock your doors without court order, and a court order is going to take at least 8 months to a year to get. So if you have 6 months left on your lease or 3 months left on your lease, maybe you roll the dice and don't pay any rent. Yeah, Jen put a comment, management is lying to potential renters. That is also correct. I don't want to say who, but someone did catch them lying that we have a dog run here the other day. That clearly is incorrect. I personally have taken to just pissing them off even more when I see a potential renter. I'm like, hey, we formed a tenants board here because of XYZ. So anything I can do to disrupt, I will. Someone said, but can they still demand the rent concession? No. So that's why I'm telling you to go talk to them and get everything in writing. So you have to talk to them and say, I'm leaving. Their first response is going to be, you owe us $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. Then you are going to respond and say, no, I don't. Show me where it says that. They're going to bring you to that page. You're going to say, you made a big boo-boo. You didn't check that I owe you anything. So everybody look at your rent addendum concession. Look in the second column. At the top of the page, there's 2 boxes. Neither one is checked. If it is checked, you're in a little bit of a pickle, but we could probably still get you out of it. But I guarantee it's not checked. And that's what you're going to say to management. This is not checked. You want to take your chance in court, or you want to just tell me that you're going to take my 30 days rent and let me leave. So no, once you make an agreement with them, follow it up with writing and just make sure to say, in response to our conversation, this is what we've agreed to, and then no, they cannot come after you. That's done. Can they still come after us 8 to 12 months later? Sure, they can. It's a contract action. They have 6 years in New Jersey. Will they? I don't know. I don't know if they're coming after people. I really don't know if they're wasting their time trying to collect rent from people. The people who moved out after 6 months, they're never going to see $1. They're just going to get judgments against them. And judgment is nothing more than a piece of paper from court that says, I owe you. And they'll never get $1. But usually what happens, let's say you have a year left on your lease and you live here for the next year and you don't pay $1, and they serve you with a summons, but you don't get a court date for a year. You move out, they finally get a court date. They will have the ability to bring you to court to collect that rent that you didn't pay for a year. But most of the time, what will happen is you'll get the summons, you'll get served, like someone shows up at your door and says you've been served. You call their lawyer and you work it out. It's no different than if you racked up a credit card bill and you didn't pay it, and you call the credit card bill, say, I can't afford to pay you $2,000, I can pay you $500. The credit card company is going to go, well, we'd rather take $500 than get a piece of paper that says you owe us $2,000. We'll take the actual $500. So again, I don't know if they're going to sue anyone. I want to make that very clear that it's possible. If you decide to just take all of the information I've given you and say, screw it, I'm not paying any rent and I'll take my chances, you can do that. But there is a chance you'll end up in court 2 years later and have to negotiate with them for back rent, which is why it's better to go on the offensive, go get out of your lease now. There's all of those ways you can get out of your lease, put it in writing, and then it's done. And they cannot come after you because you've made an agreement that they're letting you out of the contract. If they come after you or you just move out, can they report us to credit bureaus? No, they are not a creditor. They're not a creditor. That's what they're trying to scare you with. They are not a creditor. Their only remedy is to go to court. Their only remedy is to file a lawsuit. Hamilton Cove versus Jackie Rosa. That's their only remedy. They're not a credit card agency. Jess, who is very uneducated at the office, is going to say, we're going to put your credit back. No, you're not a creditor. You're not a credit card company. You're a landlord. Your only remedy as a landlord is in landlord-tenant court in New Jersey. That is it. Will you share this recording? Yes, Jenna will definitely share this recording. That's why we recorded it, so that you can listen to my very annoying voice back and hear all of the information. So for the amenities fee, they're asking for, we just don't have to pay it, correct? And they can't lock it out. No, they cannot lock you out. Absolutely not. Lockouts, pray. You should go to bed tonight and pray that you come home and you are locked out of your apartment because you have a major winning lawsuit on your hands. I will be your lawyer for that because I will be able to get a lot of attorney's fees. No, if you refuse to pay your $85 in amenity fees, again, their only remedy is to take you to court. They can't say, well, we're locking you out of some amenities or we have to switch your key. You tell them you can't lock me out of anything without a court order. If you do, you're gonna have a big lawsuit on your hands. They are very stupid at the front desk and they think everybody else is just as stupid. Okay, what more questions we have? Is there a place in our active building? Yes, where the documents are. If you go into your active building and you scroll all the way down on the left and you go to, I think it says lease documents or my lease, and then you'll see all the addendums listed like 1 through 20. Anything else? I don't know what that means. What about reporting to RealPage for future app? I don't know what that means.
RealPage is a third-party company that Hamilton Cove started using that verifies your tenant capabilities. It runs a credit report. It also has all of the buildings that you previously lived in, and if you owe any of them money. It's also a really shitty company and is extremely inaccurate. But
yeah,
in theory, but in theory, if you do owe Hamilton Cove money, it can pop up on through the RealPage because it is a third-party website that landlords pay to use and to report to. However, it's it's not really used widely. There's very minimal buildings that are members of them. So I would say I've never even heard of it. I would not worry about.
They can't even tow a car. Good luck locking people out. Correct. They're very inept. Any other questions? Let's see. I believe Jenna did create a listserv share. 4% increase off the base rent when out of contract. Correct. Yes, not the discounted rent. It's 4% of the original rent. So let's say before any rent concessions, your rent was $3,500. That's the 4% increase, not off your minus 6 months of free rent. So whatever you came in as, and they were like, hey, you see this number, you can only pay this number. It's the bigger number of the two is 4%, but still 4% only winds up being, I think, like $180, $200 at the most, not $1,000 like they're trying to charge people. What can we do about the removed Google ads? You individually, everyone has a lawsuit for that. I would write the Google review again, and I would, I've been barred completely. So, but if I were a different tenant, I would write, I am a tenant in bold letters. Do not remove this. And then I would put my review. And then if they remove it again, I would write a letter to management and say, are you violating my constitutional right for free speech by posting a review? That's what I would do. And then if you really want to screw them, file a lawsuit. Any other questions? Going once, Going twice? Awesome. So I hope everyone has the best information that I could have given them. And thank you to Jenna for arranging this and tirelessly putting back up flyers. By law, are they required to report incidents? What does that mean? Like if like there's a robbery, are they required to tell us? Is that the, I'm assuming that's the question. And yes, they can't hide incidents that are happening in the building. Yes, break-ins, etc. Yes. It's a gray area. Are they required to tell us? They can say, well, that was that person's privacy, so we have to respect that tenant's privacy. But they should be alerting tenants to anything, break-ins, all of the crazy things that we talked about last time. But is that going to help you? I don't know. And Caitlin is correct. Christina basically wrote everyone back, and we sent this email and said, everyone was misleading me. And I said, are you telling me all the tenants are liars? So they just basically are saying, you're all lying. Everyone who's made a complaint is lying. No break-ins, no this, no that. Someone who was chased with a knife made it up. So they are sticking to. Yeah, we all have police reports. Police reports are public. So if you want to upload your police report to Google, by all means. I don't know. It's a good question. Is there a listserv where tenants can share things? Oh, yeah. Jenna's saying she can create a community board. She's the tech person. Yeah, I mean, I think it might just be helpful for all of us to be in the know. Like, if anybody sees, because obviously there's not a way for us to tell each other on the active building app if there's been a break-in or anything like that, or someone's been followed or anything. So I think just as we're all still living here, just to like help each other out as a community, that'd be great. If there was like a message board that somebody could say, hey, I saw someone come, break into B today. I called the cops and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, just to help each other out to kind of get through the next 6 months or 12 months or whatever you have left on your lease, if you plan on riding it out. I think that would be most helpful. But yeah, I think my best advice is to get the heck out of Dodge if you can. Or if you want to stay and fight, I fully support that too. That's what I'm doing. I'm staying and just going to give them as hard as a time until I feel like leaving. But that's for every person to make their own decision. So thanks everybody so much for attending. Again, if you have like a really particular private question or something that you need, just send us an email. And everybody stay safe and be well and give them hell. Bye,
Have a good night, everyone. Bye.
Bye.